Hello and welcome back to Agile Foundations course, and we are happy for you to start your Agile journey with us. So, moving on from your reflections to the two questions on the assignment we had, hope you could reflect and integrate the learnings into yourself. So, moving on to the next chapter, which is our part two. And in this, we will be talking about agile values and principles. So, as part of the manifesto itself, there are four values that essentially agile talks about, right? So, the first one in the manifesto is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Essentially, in traditional organizations, what we see is there is a great emphasis on the processes and tools, while the people part is more looked at as an afterthought. So agile, when it talks about, it puts or it emphasizes to have people at the center of everything, and we strongly believe that if you look after people, if you are caring enough, making people engaged better, it will help them be motivated enough so that they take care of everything else. That means we are not saying processes and tools are not important, but the people in the organization and how they interact with each other to get the work done should be the point of emphasis and focus than processes and tools. So by doing that, we build or develop a mindset in those people that they always look to optimize the processes and make the best use of tools that we have within the enterprise, right, or within the system. So that is why the first value is focusing on individuals and interactions over processes and tools. So that is the number one value that we focus on. Second, working software over comprehensive documentation. Now, when we talk about agile, the way it started, it originated from people who were more software based. Everybody was a software architect or a developer or a development manager at that point of time, who are focused solely on software development and how to make it better, right? So from that point of view, if you see the principles and values, they are more focused on the software part of it, right? And they are meant to make software delivery better. So the second one is about working software over comprehensive documentation. So if you look at the traditional delivery mechanisms, right, whether you talk about projects that we manage through which we used to deliver the outcomes that we want as an organization, delivering solutions, or the big programs that we used to run, right, or we still run, they have a huge documentation that happens. A typical project life cycle starts with outlining business requirements. So any project which has a substantial solution to be delivered will have anywhere between 1,000 to 3,000 or 5,000 requirements traditionally. So which means when you start even identifying and finalizing the requirements for a particular project to be delivered, you are spending time almost 2 months, 3 months to finalize the requirements. And what comes out of it is what is called as business requirements document. And then you move on to defining a solutions requirement document, then a solution design document. So what happens is most time initially is spent on creating documentation. Now, how much of value it produces for the customer or the business, that we are serving during that period is almost zero, right? So we are only spending our effort to create the foundation for delivery. So here what we say is the progress should be measured on delivering working software than delivering comprehensive documentation. So we focus on just in time documentation. It does not mean that we don't document anything. We essentially still document, but we document just enough what is required for the scope of work that we are planning to deliver. And usually we talk about if you are using Scrum or iterations, so we talk about iterations or sprints in Scrum to be 2 to 4 weeks of duration. So whatever is required to be delivered or whatever can be delivered in those 2 to 4 weeks, you produce documentation just enough for that. You are writing requirements just enough for fulfilling that delivery of value in those 2 to 4 weeks. So that means you are minimizing the document which is required for that particular delivery, and the focus is on delivering that value. And let me bring in here another, a prominent word that we use, which is called as MVP. That is the minimum viable product that we deliver or that we intend to deliver through that iteration or through that sprint, right? So there are multiple names. You may call it minimum viable product, minimum business increment, or a minimum marketable product. So there could be many, in many ways you may call it, but it is about the scope of work which can deliver value when it is, you know, uh, provided to the customer we are serving. So that is what it means. You may call it any name, MVP, MBI, or MMP, or anything else, right? So the focus is on delivering working software than delivering huge comprehensive documentation. Then the third point is about customer collaboration over contract negotiation. When we are talking about a traditional delivery model, we spend so much time on negotiating the contract. So it becomes, the model becomes a provider and consumer, means service provider to service consumer. So they are at kind of two ends of spectrum. But when you talk about agile, delivering in agile, we look at our vendor or the service provider to be part of the ecosystem. Then you are talking about how we can collaborate with them, even the customer, even the service provider, how we can collaborate with them, make them part of our system rather than keeping them outside of the system and depending on our contract to actually interact with them. So more collaboration, giving a seat at the table for the customer, giving a seat at the table for the service provider is the way to go when you are talking about agile. Then the fourth, last but not the least, is responding to a change is more important than following a plan. Again, a lot of people think though, so planning is not required in agile. Planning is essential, but do you need to create the big plans that we talk about, the Gantt charts, and the, in traditional project management we create huge implementation plans, right? The planning exercise takes so much of time. We have so many plans that go into a project management plan. So instead of creating so much of a plan, we should build a plan which is good enough for delivering the outcome we want to deliver. And most importantly, we are flexible enough to accommodate changes that come into the system even at a late stage if that is impacting the value that we have committed to deliver. In traditional project management, change management itself is a very big step, because you have spent so much of time in identifying the overall requirements, the solution that you need, and then you are executing that plan that you have created. You are resisting change. Any change that comes to you goes through a big change management process. So traditionally you are resisting the change so that you follow the plan. But in when it comes to agile way of delivery, we provide, the mindset, the flexibility to accommodate a change. So we are more proactive to change. We are more pro change than resisting the change. And we are looking to see how we can accommodate the change, or why we should not be looking at changing. So in a traditional project management, we see why should we change. Here we think about how can we accommodate this change. So that is the change in mindset. So if you think about these four values, right, if you are able to integrate them and always focus on what is there on the left side of these statements, individuals and interactions, always focus on people, how they are interacting, what are the dynamics within the people in a team. Then measuring progress only based on the working software, not on the comprehensive documentation. Focusing on collaborating with our customers, collaborating with our service providers, making them part of the ecosystem, right? Involving them, giving them that sense of ownership and partnership, customer collaboration. Then being open and flexible enough to accommodate a change, right? So that is something which we really talk about, the agile values or the agile manifesto, the four elements within the agile manifesto. So that is our first segment of part 2, right? And we will talk about in the next segment. Yes, this is a manifesto which was created in 2000, early 2000s, right? So, and it was meant to serve the software development industry as a whole. But agile today is not constrained only or restricted only to software development. Even, you know uh, have been fortunate enough to be part of, being a jury member on World Agility Forum, which awards, or which kind of recognizes organizations and people who have integrated these values and who are able to showcase their agility levels to us. We are seeing that there are a lot of organizations which are beyond IT industry that are coming forward to showcase they are being agile. So agile is no longer a kind of proprietary to software industry. So it has grown much beyond that. So in the next segment we will look at, if we have to tweak this for making agile something which can be used across different industries, not just constrained to software, how can we probably tweak these, right? With the sense being still there, but tweaking them to take out that focus on IT industry. So that is what we will look at in the next segment. Again, we will focus on the core values only, but how we may customize those so they can be applied even to industries beyond IT. We hope you enjoyed this segment and look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you for joining us.